Move away. All right. Good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Hey, Lorna, Omer, Kurt. Good morning, Russ. All right, y'all. So a few things to keep your peepers on. We do have the FOMC minutes at 2 o'clock today. 2 Eastern, 1 Central, and then jobless claims tomorrow. The big man, Jerome, on Friday. But yeah, more importantly for today, FOMC minutes and then the VIX expiration. I'm not going to claim to be an expert on the VIX expiration. My inside sources tell me can shake things up a bit. And what I'm really seeing here this morning, a lot of squeezes for the futures. 2-hour squeeze for NQ, YM, ES, and crude oil. 1-hour squeeze for NQ, gold, YM, Bitcoin, S&P futures, crude oil. 30-minute squeeze for the RUT, gold, Bitcoin, crude, YM. A lot of squeeze action. So my major focus here for today, and we'll get through the VIX expiration, we'll get through the Fed minutes, but I do think the next meaningful move should come from these 1-hour squeezes. They fire long, I think that takes everything with it. They fire short, I think the opposite. What we have at the moment, the old-fashioned slingshot. So very much like back here, squeeze prints. You've got good structure, you've got good trend. Pretty much everything lining up for a push higher, except momentum. MACD line still below zero. When you get that positive cross, then you tend to see that squeeze break to the upside. It's a very similar setup. Structure wants to go higher. The trend wants to go higher. If they can keep it above the hourly 21, shift momentum back above zero, I would think a pretty good chance to squeeze here takes out these recent highs. If they can't get that Momo back above zero, then they break the hourly 50. Then I think a better chance to squeeze break short. Might be a little bit of a hurry up and wait kind of afternoon until the Fed. But I do think for the most part, make that 1-hour squeeze a big part of your focus. And then same thing here for the NQ. Good trend, good structure. A lot like the squeeze back here. If they can get momentum on the side of the bulls, should see that fire to the upside. So that'll be the major focus. And for the most part, that's what's been working as of late. I don't think we're in a market where you really want to focus on the weekly, 2-day, daily squeezes. If there's a perfect moment in time for that kind of trading, I want to go trade a weekly or a daily squeeze. Meaning, hey, I'm going to buy calls here. I might sit through some chop. I might sit through a pullback. I might hold these calls for 2, 3, 4, 5+ weeks. I think the best time to do that, that's something like back here. On a bigger time frame, the weekly, the daily, S&Ps and the QQQ have got what I think is the perfect setup. Daily squeeze, white dot, right, perfect structure, momentum, perfect everything. That can kick off the type of move where for 2, 3, 4+ weeks, you're going to get a lot of wind at your back. This is one hell of a rally off the bottom. So definitely respect the progress the bulls have made, but at the same time, we don't have that daily squeeze. We're not quite setting up at the 21 EMA. We don't have perfect structure. We don't have a perfect buy signal. And if they want to take it from 5,600 to the 5,750 call wall, then I'm here for it. But where I'm looking to operate, in the absence of a perfect daily squeeze, is mainly across these lower time frames. Not so much looking for a weekly squeeze in Google. Better yet, can I go find a 1-hour, 30-minute, 15-minute? That's been the plate of opportunity. And for the most part, has worked out pretty well here. Not just focusing on the lower time frame squeezes, trying to find spots where we can catch the initial push, bank the profit, then take a little bit of that profit, open up a free trade. A little bit further out the money, a little cheaper on the contracts. So in the Centrals room, we had an initial trade on NVIDIA. Squeeze fired, caught a nice push, banked a 70% profit, took those profits, opened up another trade, got another push, booked another 50%, opened up a third trade, caught another push, banked 70%, and now we got a fourth trade here. The thing is, if I can catch the move early, I can trade the initial push with a little bit more size, catch that move, bank that profit, keep rolling out a fraction of that profit, pretty much until the party comes to an end. If you can really catch a runner, you might lock and roll 4, 5, 6+ times. You might double, quadruple the original net profit. Best part is, worst case scenario, if the fourth trade goes to zero, between the 4 trades, we're going to have a nice overall net gain. And then in my personal room, it worked on TSM. Microsoft was good to us. We caught AMD once, flipped those profits into a second trade, took those profits, and now we got a third trade here on a butterfly. And then we had an hourly squeeze on Goldman. That one did not work. But these have all been entries based on 1 hour, 30 minute, 15 minute, 5 minute time frames. One that did come across the board, at least I didn't see it until about 2 minutes before the close. So I'm ashamed to say that I didn't get the alert posted. But a good example would be 15-minute squeeze here on Amazon. Now, mind you, I'm trading it on a 15-minute. What I still want to make sure I'm doing, taking context and key levels from bigger time frames. At the end of the day yesterday, that's a great-looking 15-minute squeeze. Checks all the boxes, all the bells and whistles. But imagine you have the falling daily 21 EMA right there at 179. Yeah, good-looking 15-minute squeeze. We're right up under major daily resistance. Might be a little tough to see that 15-minute squeeze do what it should do. So context for Amazon is bulls chipping away at some progress. No more sell signal. We are back above the 200, back above the 21. Yeah, little stabilization. 2 hour, 15-minute, 5-minute buy signal. We've seen better looking daily charts, but progress, and you are back above a key level. I'm not calling for 2, 3, 4 weeks of strength. And in most cases, I'm not even calling for 2, 3, 4 days of strength. When I find that lower time frame squeeze, play it in the direction of the S&Ps and the Qs. I'm in, I'm out, move it on to the next one. And until things change in a big fashion, that will be the game plan. All that being said, the choppy nature of the week, with all the squeezes setting up here in the futures, I would like to think that might come to an end today. Meaning NQ might begin to fire the 30-minute, 1 hour, 2 hour squeezes. That's going to kick off a nice directional move. Could be long, could be short. But I do think the chop might come to an end here, potentially after the Fed minutes. But there's my overall game plan. And for the open trades here, AMD pretty quiet in the pre-market. The third trade we have here is a 170 butterfly for next week. So here's kind of the math. Between the first 2 trades, between a few of my accounts, I think I've got about a net profit of, we'll call it $2,000. From that $2,000 of closed profit, on the butterfly here, I'm risking about $450. So into next Friday's expiration, what's my worst case scenario? AMD pukes, Butterfly expires worthless. I lose about $500. Between the 1, 2, 3 trades, net profit of $1,500. The absolute best case scenario, which I'm not quite looking for, I would like a chunk of it, but the absolute best case scenario, next Friday AMD pins at 170, and on the 450 of risk, I pull in about 400 of profit, or 4,000 of profit rather. I could 2x my overall net profit, or I'm going to walk away with 1,500 to my name. Not a bad worst case scenario, really good best case scenario. So we'll see what's up with that puppy. One thing that's been working really well this week, the spot gamma call walls. Into the week, we have the call wall at 150. On that big move through 150 the following morning, call wall goes to 160. Yesterday, that 160 really serves as a big magnet. Draws price right into it. They poke their head above it, and then the move back below it. For a path towards 165, 170, they've got to clear that 160 call wall. TSM is another good example. You've had the call wall at $1.75. First, it acts like a big magnet, right? Draws price right to that level. When you get there, then it can be more of a resistance level. 1, 2, 3, 4 days in a row, tries to get through that 175, can't quite get the job done. NVIDIA 130. Yesterday's exact high of day, $1.30. So these have been pretty helpful here. Magnets and brick walls. Netflix has a call wall at 700. Going on a few months, look at the move here. Right off the bottom, directly to 700. Poke their head above it, right back below it. The first 1 or 2 closes above 700, and then seeing the call wall go to 725, 750, then it can make it easier for Netflix to have a path higher. Otherwise, at 700, might just be the brick wall. So they've been helpful. But all right, folks, any questions, anything you want to take a look at, drop it in the chat here. We are long AMD in my mastery. We are long NVIDIA in the Essentials room. And we're playing with house money. So good news is they can't hurt us. VIX expiration, Fed minutes, shall not be a dull day. Most important thing I would give you to watch, 1 hour squeeze S&P futures, 1 hour squeeze QQQ futures. For better or worse, depending on how you're looking at it all, that should get us out of the chop. Might not get any of that until later in the afternoon. But I do think that'll be your next mover. So don't lose sight of that one. All right. Good morning, Russ, IBM. And yeah, Bob, good observation. I am working on a few updates here for the buy and the sell signals. I do like them. So give me 1 or 2 more weeks. I want to spend a little more time with them. But I do think at some point, I'll send this over to the team. We'll get an update going. Roland, the yellow line is just something I drop in here for the spot gamma levels. Just a toss drawing set. But all right, Russ wants to take a peek at the IBM. And I think a lot to like here. The daily squeeze is A+. We got the white dot. We have the white dots on the hourly squeeze. And we've got the white dots here on the 30-minute squeeze. I have to like that. My favorite setup across 1, 2, 3 different time frames. I would take those squeezes here for IBM, Try to play them in alignment with the 1 hour squeeze in the S&P futures. In other words, for a play on IBM, can I get some wind at my back? Ideally, the ES takes a 1 hour squeeze, pulls momentum higher, and then breaks it above the highs. Good for the market, good for IBM, pretty much good for everything. That, of course, won't guarantee that IBM can break higher, but it won't hurt you. Mama market going higher can't hurt an IBM. Same thing for the NQ, where vice versa, should these hourly squeezes reverse and break short, doesn't guarantee IBM has to trade lower, but it's going to make its job of taking that squeeze and breaking to the upside that much more difficult. Best case, you get some wind at your back from Mama and Papa market. Yeah, for those of you in the mastery, I'll be on the mic in our room in about 20 minutes. Tony, no difference between the two, just a difference in colors between the tools. But gray, blue are the same thing. It is just a squeezing. Kurt with a good question here. Kurt asks, do I tend to pass on A+ setups that have been in a squeeze for an extended period of time? That's a really good question. And I don't have a default rule for, okay, we've been in a squeeze for 10 bars, so I'm going to pass on the idea. But to your point, one that comes to mind immediately is, what is it? If you're in my room, you're going to know. What's that bank stock? We've had that one random bank stock. It's had that daily squeeze for what feels like all of 2024. What was it? Not ADP. APO? Bingo, APO. APO, and this might be a record. APO has a daily squeeze from March until August. Better yet, it has my favorite squeeze, right? All the bells and whistles from May until August. So yeah, at some point it's kind of like, what's the big holdup? It has good trend, it has good structure, all the pretty colors, all kinds of energy getting built up. Now you do get a little drift higher, but never that big explosive, rapid multi-day move. I don't have a set in stone rule for, hey, I'm going to pass on this. It's been squeezing too long. But I do think as you're going through the charts looking for opportunities, it's a good observation. If everything is lining up, right, everything's just firing on all cylinders, it shouldn't take really more than 4 weeks for a daily squeeze to break long. Never mind multiple months. Better yet, I, for one, don't even have the patience. So that's a different problem all on its own. But no, that was a good example there for APO. Hey, Victor, can I talk where I entered on NVIDIA? Yeah, so the first entry for NVIDIA, let me go check the alerts in the Essentials room. And then I'll jump over to the chat on YouTube. All right. So, let me see. The Endeavor started on the 14th. So on the 14th, we bought the 120 call at 94 cents. On the 15th, we sold that for 60, 70% profit. An hour later, turned around, bought the 125 calls at 42 cents. The following day, sold those at 60 cents, turned around, bought the 130 call. And then Monday, sold the 130 calls for 70%, turned around, bought the 135 calls, and that's our current trade. Right. So we started on the, what was it, 14th? Yeah, 14th on the end of day 15-minute squeeze. All right, NVIDIA. We took it on, get my drawing tool. All right. We took it on this candle. Now, to be honest with myself, little bad behavior. I didn't quite have the ideal squeeze. So there's an example of I bought it on the slingshot. In this case, it worked to my example. At the open the following morning, momentum did kick back above zero. Off goes NVIDIA. Ideally, it looks more like an Amazon. I've got all the above and momentum, so does make it a little better. If you try to front run that momentum cross, you can get caught up in a 4-hour squeeze like crowd. I've got my squeeze. I don't have my momentum cross, but you know what? I bet you I'm going to get it. So I'm going to jump in here and buy those calls anyway. And you never get it. It goes lower, and the squeeze just kind of takes a dumper on you. So I did put that in my notebook. Not a habit that I want to get into. I'm making an assumption it'll become the complete setup. You know what they say about assumptions, especially in a public setting. But more importantly, the idea. End of day 15-minute squeeze. Playing it initially with a little more size. Catching the initial push puts me in a great position. If I pull in a few $1,000 of profit, I can take half of that. I can take a quarter of that. Little further out the money. I go buy that 125 call now. They dump. I'm going to have a net profit. They keep the push going. I can keep on rinsing and repeating until the party comes to an end. Knowing the last trade at some point is going to be a loser. Now, if NVIDIA wants to rally until the end of times here, then I won't be complaining. All right, let me jump over here to the good folks on the YouTube. Good morning. Good morning. JT, do I happen to have my 30-minute, 15-minute, and 5-minute time frames on extended hours? I do for the futures. And I only do that for the futures. So what I did was I took the code for the watch list columns here. Then I made brand new columns. And I won't open it to expose the code. But I made another set of these columns. And for these ones, I turned the extended hours on. That way on the futures, I can get a true reflection. So YM on the 30-minute. If I didn't make those initial columns and turn the extended hours on, then I'm not going to see this 30-minute squeeze. Good eye there, my friend. Matthew, Broadcom. So let's go take a peek at this bad boy. So Broadcom on the board. Very respectable third place out of the big 14. 48 points out of 60. And I would look for lower time frame squeezes. Reason being, to me, what's the best possible daily time frame? XLP a few days ago. It's my favorite combination ever. Energy building up in a squeeze. By default, we already know this thing might be gearing up for a nice directional move. As options traders, more importantly, might be gearing up for a bigger than expected move. I can buy these calls for cheap. Squeeze fires leads to a bigger than expected move. I'm getting a huge bang for my buck. Energy being built up, momentum, structure, trend, locked and loaded. If the S&Ps and the QQQ look like that, then I'm thinking, hey, Broadcom, do you have a weekly 2-day daily squeeze? I think I've got an overall market gearing up to give me a few weeks of wind at my back. Then I want to go swing trade those bigger time frames. The S&Ps and Qs do not look like XLP, and even Broadcom, though it's made progress, doesn't look like XLP. So where can I find my plate of opportunity? Where can I find my clarity? Lower time frames. And here's a great thing. If Broadcom goes from 165 to 200, guess what? The majority of those 15, 30-minute, 1-hour squeezes, they're going to fire to the upside. You might be slicing and dicing on lower time frames. You're going to take advantage of that bigger move. So the only thing I've got at the moment would be the 1-hour squeeze. At any point they shift momentum, we get the buy signal. Might be a good play. You do have the call wall at $1.70. So for a move much bigger than that, they do got to tear down that wall. But all right, folks, I am going to let you go here. I got to jump into my room in 5 or so minutes. So for those of you in my mastery, bear with me. I'm going to run downstairs, make a hot coffee, and I'll be back, take you through the opening hour. We will watch the hourly squeezes here in the futures. We will keep an eye on our AMD. And then for the most part, might be a little choppy, might be a little quiet ahead of the Fed. So be mindful of that. But as always, folks, really appreciate your time and effort. Thank you all for being here. Wish you all the best of luck today. Go kick